Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of SeeView Circle. This is our podcast in which we review and recap our favorite TV shows and movies of the past, present, and possibly the future, all in service of determining just how highbrow or lowbrow our viewing taste is. And we are going to sort of catch up with that and find out where we are on that journey a little bit later on in the podcast. We also talk about sometimes fashions and styles and filming locations that are lost to the decades. I don't know if that'll factor into this discussion, but what are we doing today, Doug?
Well, we decided this is called spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning.
So, in a way, we can cover quite a few things that we've been exploring.
Yeah, I think we've had fans that are looking for us to, return to our Knots Landing coverage, but we also obviously had a lot of really success with our Yellowjackets coverage as well. So we're kind of doing a little bit of a hybrid today. So if you're a fan of Yellowjackets, or if you're a fan of Knots Landing, we have a little bit of content for all y'all.
Or if you're a fan of our podcast in general.
Exactly.
Then,
we want this to be a little bit more like freeform.
This is laid back, okay?
Laid back.
This is chill.
Chill. Not so many slides.
Yeah, exactly. Less slides, a little bit more impromptu, I'd say.
I like it. I
do too.
Yeah, if you notice, like even our set has a little bit of both shows, right? Doug's representing the Yellowjackets on his side, and we got our little sweet little Maggie from season 1. Will the circle be unbroken from Knots Landing over there, right? Now let's start off with a normal segment that we have, right? We have a letter from the sack. No, actually, there's been quite a few that we've kind of neglected over the past few weeks. But this one just came in today, and I thought it was really the perfect bridge to kind of get into our spring cleaning. This is from our friend, the Escapism Hatch, over on Instagram, who asked today, any ETA on season 2 of Knots Landing? I'm still excited for it. I haven't followed the Yellowjackets episodes because I need to watch the show first, but I'll circle back to them when I do. Hello. Yeah, you need to be watching Yellowjackets because it is amazing. It was a great season, and we had a lot of fun covering it. What do you think, Doug?
And
what do
you know what? There's certainly not as many episodes to Yellowjackets as there are for Knots Landing. I mean, in fact, for the 3 seasons of Yellowjackets, that equals pretty much like 1 season of Knots Landing.
So you can get through it pretty quickly, and then you can enjoy all of our Yellowjackets content.
Yeah, so, check it out.
But in regards to season 2 of Knots Landing, we actually have started work on this particular series of shows. However, we're going to do things a little differently, Doug. Do you want to explain maybe how we're going to kind of condense this down a little bit? Because there are so many episodes per season.
We've decided that it is a bit much to recap 24.
Well, it's 18 episodes for season 2.
Okay, season 2, 18 episodes is a lot to recap every episode.
Yes.
Therefore, we thought maybe a more clever way of doing this would be to concentrate on characters and storylines. So we are approaching it in that way. So for instance, we could be season 2, it's going to be the introduction of Abby, and we could go down that, the whole thing of Abby's storyline and where that goes in season 2.
So what that means for the viewer is that we have to watch all 18 episodes again before we can truly give you those kind of character arcs for the episodes. So just bear with us a little bit longer. We will get to it. We have started. We just, again, we are kind of busy in our normal lives as well, so we have to kind of get through all of that.
Yeah, and in fact, our other DJ World DB Discotheque, if you haven't checked that out on Instagram.
Yes, that's right.
That's our DJing profile. And, we do DJing for public events, and actually we're doing some other kind of fun things this summer. So you can check that out, too, if you're
We'll put it down there,
in
DB
LA.
Discotheque on Instagram. You can follow us. We are going to have some events coming up really soon, which, again, is going to keep us busy and prevent us from putting out as many podcasts as we normally would. But anyway, thank you very much, Escapism Hatch, for that question. And if you want to message us, you may do so where, Doug?
You can email us, SeeViewCircle@gmail.com. That's SEE View Circle, all one word. We're also on Instagram @SeeViewCircle.
TikTok, Blue Sky. It's interesting the demographics of each of the shows because I feel like the majority of our Knots Landing friends are on Instagram, or they know you through Facebook over on the Facebook groups, right?
Right, which is Dougie Dimensional.
Right. And then also, of course, with the Blood Hive for Yellowjackets, they may know you over there as well. And then a big portion of our Yellowjackets fans are on the TikTok. So that's been a really fun conversation we're having over there. We appreciate you all very much. So let's chat a little bit about what's going on in the Knots Landing world since we last left it back in January, actually. We went to the Hollywood show in January, and we saw Donna Mills, and we saw Joan Van Ark, and we saw Kathleen Noon at the Hollywood show. And of course, that was during the crazy fires that were happening here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, because there were supposed to actually be Michelle Lee could not make it.
Right.
Because of the fires.
Michelle Phillips postponed.
And Stacey Galena was supposed to be there.
Right.
However, they are coming back in June.
Right. So Michelle Phillips actually did postpone, and she will be there for this particular show, along with some new additions. We have Claudia Lonow, oh my gosh, who we actually met.
Yeah, we went and saw her comedy routine.
When was that? February, maybe? I can't remember.
We went to see her. She's been doing some stand-up comedy stuff.
Yeah.
And so we went to a really cool event in Hollywood.
Shout out to Ego Death. That was
Ego
so much
Death.
fun.
It was really fun. I'd love to go back to another night that they promote.
Yeah, and Claudia did this really great homage to her character, Diana, where she had basically a montage of her best fashion moments as Diana. And she was singing Lucky by Britney Spears, right?
Yeah, she sang Lucky. And I got to tell you something. That song has been stuck in my brain for months. Well, when's the last time I heard that? But I mean, I've been singing it.
So you can meet Claudia at the Hollywood show, as well as Tanya Crow.
Right.
Who I have to say, I would love to meet her. I think that would be really interesting to see where she's at these days, especially since she's a friend of our ex-acupuncturist.
Right. I was going to say it's a 6 degrees of separation on that one.
And she will be there with her on-screen husband, Paul Carafotes.
Which is another 6 degrees of separation. Yes. But we're not going to talk about that
right now. Is that it? I think that's it. I think it's those four. It's Michelle Phillips, Tanya Crow, Paul Carafotes, and Claudia Lonow. Now, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to make it because, and we really want to meet Michelle Phillips.
I want to meet Michelle Phillips because I have big mamas and papas.
But we have some DJ gigs tentatively scheduled for that day.
I think that day we're supposed to have two.
Two, yeah.
Which is a lot.
I don't think we can make it out to Burbank, but we will be really excited to hear any of y'all's reports from that event. But anyway, we also wanted to mention, actually, that if you've been listening to... the new podcast, which we first heard about at the Hollywood show back in January.
That's right. They talked about it.
So Donna Mills and Joan Van Ark had teased that they were going to be doing a podcast with Michelle Lee, and that is out, of course. It's called We're Not Done Yet, and they're actually 7 episodes into the podcast now. They have mentioned that they're actually going to be appearing at the South Fork Experience, and that is going to be in August. That's August 9th.
That's the Dallas.
That's the Dallas. They're going to be doing a majority of Dallas cast members.
That's a cool
thing.
And
then the 3 ladies from Knots Landing. And then also our good dear friends, Joyce DeWitt and Priscilla Barnes from Three's Company will be there as well because of the Jenny Lee Harrison connections. You see how it all kind of ties in together. So that is in Dallas, I believe, in the Dallas area. And that is August 9th through 10th. The slides there, information on both the Hollywood show in Burbank and also the South Fork Experience in Dallas. Now, if you've been listening to the Joan, Donna, and Michelle podcast, last week they also sort of paid a quick tribute to Lar Park Lincoln, oddly, also a Dallas connection because I believe she lived in Dallas or she's maybe from Dallas.
She's from Texas.
She passed away last month, only at the age of 64 from breast cancer. And of course, she played Linda Fairgate on Knots Landing. Her kind of tenure on the show was kind of split up because if you remember, she started off just there for like a couple episodes when Eric Fairgate came back with Linda, his new wife. And there was some really funny episodes there with Linda, sparring with Michelle Lee's character, Karen, right? Because I remember Lar Park Lincoln was like, she was like really bubbly and she was like a health nut.
Was it? She was like, I'm a vegetarian.
yeah.
She couldn't eat any of the food.
Right.
And so like Michelle Lee's character was like,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She reminded me in those early episodes kind of like Jan Hook's character from Pee-wee's Big Adventure at the Alamo, like high energy, like really like Texas energy. I remember at the time being like, oh gosh, who is this? And then she was gone for a while. And then I think she actually, during that time in between Knots Landing episodes, she was in a Friday the 13th movie.
Oh, right. That's
which we haven't seen, but
no.
I'm curious.
But didn't she, then when she came back to Knots Landing, though, she lightened her hair. So she had or it was like, it was on purpose, they said. I remember they go, oh, your hair looks good. Or,
yes, but actually she first came back to Knots Landing because she was Sally's friend.
Oh.
Do you remember? So for those first episodes where Gary like mistakenly calls and reaches Sally's friend, and you only see her from the back, she's got like the blonde curly wig or whatever. That's Lar Park Lincoln
playing Sally's friend.
And then they must have decided to go with, well, they went with Penny Pfizer for the actual role of Amanda later.
Okay,
but then they must have loved working with Lar Park Lincoln so much, so they had her come back again as Linda, and that's when I think the character really sort of blossomed into this more I don't know, she's
devious,
very sexy,
sex bomb.
Yeah, totally. And she looks fantastic.
She looks very like, she kind of reminded me a little of like a Jane Mansfield type of deal. I mean, not as over the top, but still very glam.
And poor little Michael Fairgate just could not keep up up with Linda.
No, he couldn't keep up with Linda.
Oh my gosh. We watched an episode last night just to kind of remind us of that whole era of Lar Park Lincoln on the show. And she was great. I mean, she was already like, sleeping with Greg at the time and feuding with, of course, Nicolette Sheridan as Paige. Anyway, she was a real firecracker, I think. It brought a lot of energy to those later seasons of Knots Landing. And, she was, in later years, she was actually an acting coach as well. And she had founded, like, her own acting school, I think, in Dallas. I remember
we were talking about this at one point because we said, oh, it'd be really cool to, like, kind of...
Yeah, maybe interview her or something. Shame that we've lost her so early. And I think even Diane Letoulier, who we had interviewed for our little season 1 Knots Landing wrap up, I think they were friends. So
we were thinking that if we had more time, it would be nice to do a tribute thing. And maybe we can do that when we get rolling into the new season. But there's still just so much to do. Right. So we're trying.
So anyway, if you have not checked out the We're Not Done Yet podcast, you should do so. It's fun to hear the three ladies together. I will say this, that sometimes their topics get a little obtuse. It kind of takes left and right turns real quick.
You've listened to more of them than I have.
Yes.
But I did listen to the like, I don't know if it's the most current, but the last one. Maybe I think there might be a new one that just dropped.
Yes, in the new one today, the viewer question was, what are your favorite type of shoes? So these are the questions that are coming. What's your favorite type of shoe, Doug, now that we're on the topic?
Well, I do like a sneaker.
You like a sneaker?
I like Adidas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my go-to.
I like an Adidas sneaker as well. We have that in common. My current shoe that I'm wearing a lot of, though, is a Levi high top, which I kind of just bought blindly online and fit me like a glove, and I wear them all the time. Now, it was revealed in the podcast this past week that Donna Mills actually shops at Ross.
So do I sometimes.
We were just there the other day. I don't know what to tell you.
I like Ross. I tell you, I always find good. Well, I like Levi's too.
Yeah.
So I like Levi's 511s, and so that's the best place to get a good deal on a Levi's.
You have to wait in line, but
they also have very good impulse buys.
Yes, they do.
Which is very dangerous. Like, I just bought, when we were leaving, I bought these ginger chews. I bought 2 packs of Seattle's Best Coffee because it was like $3 cheaper than in the supermarket. I was like, yeah, baby, bring it on.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff you learn over on the We're Not Done Yet podcast. Go take a listen. They don't talk about Knots Landing as much as they did in the first episodes, and I think that they have discussed the possibility of bringing on some other actors from the show, and I think that would be a great idea. I know everybody would love to see Constance McCashin talking with these three ladies after all these years. And they also mentioned the possibility of having Ted Shackelford on as well, which I think would just
that'd be fun.
Lovely.
I mean, I'll say this. I just think that just having them interacting and listening to them is great.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand why that would be an appealing podcast. Let them talk about anything they want to talk about.
Well, Michelle Lee talks about quite salacious things.
I'm sure she does.
She reminds me a little bit of Florence Henderson, like when she came out of that concert that we were attending.
Yeah, we
together.
Once met Florence Henderson, and I got to tell you, it was
it was an eye opener, kids.
It sure was. I mean, she was super cool.
Yeah,
but she was not as squeaky clean as Mrs. Brady was. Okay, she was definitely she was a firecracker.
She was more like the Mrs. Brady in the Be My Stir versions.
Yeah.
All right, so that's been a lot of fun listening to that podcast. I've also been listening to another podcast recently that I just really can't get enough of. Or it's not a podcast, it's a YouTube show, kind of like, you know, how you could find our show as well. And that's Lushious Massacr. I just gonna say, go look for her. She's really cheered me up a lot when I'm feeling down about the crazy times that we're living in right now. She can make me laugh out loud. I can be in the gym, like, you know, doing a really strenuous exercise, and then I would just start laughing like crazy listening on my headphones. So Lushious Massacr, check it out. She'll just go to the mall and just walk through the mall, and it's just absolutely hilarious. What about you?
Well, I'm listening completely different things. I'm not really listening to podcasts. I'm just listening to, you know, YouTube psychics, you know. Okay, so okay. I do have some ones I like.
What do you get out of the YouTube psychics?
One of my favorite YouTube psychics is Kim, and she's Moonlight Energy. Shout out to Moonlight Energy. I love her really fresh take on, she talks about politics, current events, and just spiritual things. And she's just really cool. I think she lives in New Jersey. So she's got this kind of a bit of a New Jersey kind of like accent. And she's just very refreshing to listen to. So I listen to Moonlight Energy.
Funnily enough, we also just recently attended a live taping of another political-based podcast called Love It or Leave It. Do you remember? We were just there last. How did you remember? It was literally like 3 days ago.
I don't really remember that one. I forgot about that. So it was really great.
The reason we went is that Dynasty Typewriter, which has a lot of really great content. If you live in the Los Angeles area and you like comedy, any of the shows you watch, all the comedians pass through Dynasty Typewriter. I mean, it's just like a who's who. You watch their roster. It's just like everybody's, you know, comes there. And we were there because we love Kerri, Kenney, Silver. And so the gentleman, John Lovett, was interviewing Kerri, Kenney for, I guess, this previous week's podcast. I don't know exactly when our edited podcast will air, but, you know, in the recent vicinity. And of course, he was asking her about 4 Seasons, which is the Netflix show. It's currently one of like the top rated Netflix shows in the world.
And it's based on the like movie from like 1981 that was written. I think it was written by Alan Alda, or I don't know, something. Yeah. Alan Alda was very involved in it, and he actually does a cameo in it as well. For all of you who are old enough to know who Alan Alda is, he was one of the main characters in the television show.
I was gonna say, if any of you are old enough to know who Alan Alda is, you will appreciate this show. Right.
And if you aren't, then you'll probably be like, what?
No, you'll still appreciate the show. It is still relatable. I think it is definitely about relationships, long-term relationships, marriages,
and it's written, this one's written by Tina Fey, isn't it? She wrote it.
Yeah, this version.
So this is like, she's adapted it.
Yeah.
And so Tina Fey does a great job. Steve Carell is in it.
Right.
Coleman Domingo is in it. Kerri, Kenney.
Yes. Kerri, Kenney, Silver, I think pretty much steals the show. I mean, we've been fans of hers. Obviously, well, actually, I've been a fan of hers since The State, you know, the comedy troupe from MTV way back in the 90s. For Yellowjackets fans, I'm sure you are familiar with that as well. But then, of course, she was on Reno 911.
Yeah, for, I think, every season.
Trudy Weigel. Yeah, she's one of the main 3 of the people who created that show. And so we've always kind of like watched her career. And I have to say, it's been really a delight to see her in this role, which, you know, I guess it's more of like a serious role, but she still is funny. I mean, the whole show is funny. It's just also has touching.
Well, like, you know, I think I mentioned to you what I thought was really good about 4 Seasons and seeing her in the 4 Seasons was that you're so used to seeing her and just doing these comedy sketch type things. Kind of like Niecy Nash, who came from Reno 911 too,
right?
Where then they got into more serious roles or comedic serious roles. And that's kind of like what this is.
Yeah, I would recommend it if you have not seen 4 Seasons, especially if you're like a Knots Landing fan. I think the Knots Landing fans are going to get into the 4 Seasons. I think for us too, we just celebrated our 22nd anniversary together, and so that definitely, well, very relatable.
Yeah.
That show. Now, I asked you ahead of time to prepare a Browmeter score for 4 seasons. Were you able to think about that?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'm going to give it a 4.
Well, okay. I mean, I almost went to a 4. I said, I'm going to say 3.9.
Okay.
3.9 for me.
I thought it was really well done, and they hit so many points, as you mentioned, that are very relevant to being in a long-term relationship and also just being in middle age.
Exactly.
It's all these subtle things, the subtleties that people don't really talk about.
Highly recommended. Now, I said a 3.9. You said a 4. We're going to do some math really quick here. So pause. All right, we're back. I did some calculations here because I wanted to find out what is our current standing for the Browmeter overall, right? So we have the Browmeter scores from Knots Landing Season 1. The Browmeter score was 3.75. This is on a scale from 1 to 5, by the way, 5 being the highest brow. Yellowjackets Season 1 was a 3.96.
Okay.
Yellowjackets Season 2, 3.82. The Yellowjackets Season 3, there was a 3.6. And then what we just discovered just now was a 3.95 for the 4 seasons. So in total, our Browmeter score is 3.82.
Now, let me ask you a question. If we were to do something like go back down the rabbit hole and watch the Madam television show, what do you think that's going to skew it way down, isn't it?
It
to
depends.
Like a 2 or a 1. But
oh my gosh. We have been watching Robert's Retro Rewind also on YouTube. Shout out to that. We love it.
He has been prolific. He's just cranking them out.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is with his timelines, he's going forward in time and backward in time at the same time, releasing these.
So if you're interested in TV
shorts.
shows from 1963 all the way up to 1988.
And these are shows that didn't make it.
Yeah, these are shows that only lasted 1 season or less. And what's interesting is you will see some of these actors who, like, let's say we're on Knots Landing, and you see the projects they were on, like, just before Knots Landing. Like, you saw Larry Riley, remember?
Right. And then what was funny is the other day, we saw this, so it was 1987 to 88, and we saw a sitcom that had Juliette Lewis in it.
That's
remember?
right.
It was like she was like 12 or 13 years old. So, like, it's actually really fun to watch.
It's a trip. And actually, she probably would have been the same age as, like, a young Natalie Scartorchio, and she had the blonde hair.
Yeah, she had the blonde hair even. It was fun. So, anyway. Robert's Retro Rewind. I think he's got now from like 1962 all the way to like 1988. Yeah. I'm sure he's going to keep going.
I'm sure he will.
In both directions.
Yeah.
I will say this. I really enjoy watching, obviously, like the more modern stuff. But I would say from about like the mid-60s stuff, I liked a lot. Now that early stuff is getting a little too hokey.
I mean, at some point, it seems TV is only Westerns and war.
Yeah. Westerns and war, or like a Leave It to Beaver type things, but not Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's very like squeaky clean and weird.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, speaking of Natalie Scartorchio, we are now going to venture into Yellowjackets land, shall we? Okay.
Let's do it. Let's rip that Band-Aid off.
It's wild to switch from Knots Landing to Yellowjackets. There's not a lot in common there, but we appreciate any of you fans that come in the middle. I actually had one comment on TikTok, though, that I think was really, really fun. It was towards the end of our Yellowjackets Season 3 coverage, and someone said, hey, you do realize that Seaview Circle is the name of the street on Knots Landing? And I was like,
duh,
yeah.
Hello.
It's
okay.
It's okay.
You have to have a name.
Whoever you were that left that comment, please watch our Knots Landing coverage that predated the Yellowjackets. Anyway, getting into Yellowjackets, I want to do a little bit of, again, spring cleaning here. We have a couple of poll results from the last 2 episodes that I never released out to the social media. So we have in episode 9, the question was, or the prompt was, the Antler Queen really is... And the overwhelming response was that the Antler Queen will be one of the Yellowjackets. And it turned out to be, yes, Shauna.
Right.
Currently
Shauna.
And in the episode 10, the question was, did you always think that Mari was going to end up being the pit girl? And the overwhelming response was no, actually. That was too obvious.
I think that's what we thought too, but it did look like her.
Yeah.
It was weird. It did kind of look
like
her.
They did a good job, I have to say. In hindsight, I'm okay with it.
I mean, I think there was a point I was convinced it was going to be Ashley Sutton, and later on, because again, you only see the back of the head and the black hair.
Right.
So
I felt like the frame of the extra from the pilot more sort of matched the Ashley Sutton, but it is interesting the way they kind of recreated everything and stitched it together with the previous footage. I really did buy it that it was Mari and the actress who played Mari. Now, it will be sad to see her go. Hopefully we'll get some sort of, maybe some ghost appearance of Mari.
Maybe. And I mean, and she's dating Kevin Alves.
Hey, did you hear, though? Actually, there was a recent interview with Steven Kruger, who plays Coach Ben, and they were asking him about his time on Yellowjackets in season 4, and he says, I feel kind of confident that maybe they would have me back for some sort of ghost appearance.
I thought that was kind of interesting. I did see a little snippet of that on something.
Now, I have to admit, one of the reasons why we were sort of delaying having another episode here, a little wrap-up, was that we were hoping we were going to see a season 4 announcement, and we still have not seen that, so we're still patiently awaiting
However, I heard two different things. The first thing I heard was, because we knew there was this lawsuit thing going down from this movie that apparently had something to do with a plane crash or whatever. And so
similar
that was settled. I heard that was settled. Yeah. So like that's done.
That's good.
But
good
I
news,
do know
good news.
The other thing is that there's something going on with Showtime being consolidated with Paramount Plus.
Right.
So I have a feeling that it's all tied in with...
It's a merger that's been happening for quite a while, and I guess the parent company has sold it, and
Right, and then the thing was, I think we mentioned this before, but when we did chat to Ashley
Lyle, right.
It sounded very hopeful.
Yeah, they were feeling very confident at that point.
Just
and
some
I
things
think
that needed to
happen. Some other news that came in was that the season 3 finale got like the best ratings of like maybe the entire series so far.
Right. So I mean, you would think that, God, if you were working at that Paramount Plus, you'd be like, hello,
more please.
But I don't know. I don't work at Paramount Plus, so I can't really tell you.
Now, I did want to talk a little bit before we get. The reason we're here is we're going to go through this theory list, guys. We're going to go through the theory list, and we're going to cross off other stuff we forgot to cross off in the last episode, because that last episode went on a little long, in case you didn't notice. I think it was our longest episode yet. So we're going to get to that in a second. But first, I just wanted to mention a couple of these like fun full circle moments, because obviously it was called Full Circle, and we never quite had that conversation. So I'm just going to quickly say that I really appreciated a couple things. There was a moment in the finale where Melissa is strangling Shauna.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting how that's a tie back to the modern day when Shauna is pinning down Melissa and forcing her to eat a part of her arm. Then there's this great, I mean, the whole full circle moment here for this season, and they do this a lot. If you got to always remember to watch that first episode, because they're going to reference it in the last episode of the season. That always happens. And so here you have that dynamic between Shauna and Mari already there. Yeah. They're feuding there. They're playing that game, right? But there's that moment between Shauna and Mari, and again, Shauna pins Mari down and bites her arm as well.
Right.
Right? It's
and in fact, and remember, didn't she spit into Mari's food too? That was the other thing.
Yes, she spit into Mari's food, and that is what caused Mari to run and fall into the pit in episode 1.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So it is interesting. And that, of course, starts the whole ball rolling for what happens, because when Mari falls into the pit in episode 1, that's the discovery of the pit. And that is also Coach Ben's reintroduction after him kind of separating off, his reintroduction back to the Yellowjackets, which them bringing him back to the camp then starts that whole ball rolling with the trial, and then them deciding to kill him, but then Aquila having the dream that he's the bridge and all this kind of stuff. If you really look at all the different little pieces to the puzzle and the events that happen and lead to where we are now, it is really cool. I think you always have to see the season kind of like a few steps back, after you've watched the whole thing. So they did a good job. I will say still, if we don't get a season 4, this will not be satisfying to me if this were the end of the series, right?
I would at least hope they would do a movie.
Yeah, because you have to see them actually being rescued.
Oh, I want to see that so bad. That's going to be the best part.
Yeah.
I loved, even when we did that one episode where they showed the tiny snippets of the rescue. I really enjoyed that, like, kind of fake television footage.
You know what's interesting about that? We didn't talk about that, but in that episode, I remember people saying, "Oh, there's Mari. There's Mari. There's Mari." Like there was somebody who was kind of shrouded with maybe a baseball cap, and they were like did close-ups of her lips and stuff. And so it wasn't Mari, guys, because Mari didn't make it back. Okay.
Right.
Now let's get into this. Right. Let's just get into this. Shall we do this? Shall we do this? Are we ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
So now we're just going into stuff that we have not crossed off or circled. So how about this? The trophy case gives clues to which Yellowjackets have died. Well, in this case right now, we can still say, for the most part, it's true, because the only person on there that there's a photo that we can clearly see that has not died yet is Aquila. But we don't see her dead yet.
Well, so maybe Aquila's going to show back up again.
Right. I mean, that is the hope. That is the hope, guys. That's going to come later down on the line. Okay, so we're going to leave that as is for now because we can't fully determine. Now, the next thing on here is Ben is talking to Javi's friend in the cave.
Yes, and we talked about this again, didn't we? Like, I think you and I looked at something where we said Javi mentions her.
She did not think I should come back, or she told me not to come back.
She told me not to come back.
She.
Right. So that's where I still think that there is something that must be going on. There's got to be a person there.
This has to be a payoff. It has to be a payoff.
Yeah.
They can't leave this one dangling. Okay?
No.
Now, was Ben talking to Javi's friend in the cave when he was mumbling, when he was there with Mari or whatever? I don't know. It seems unlikely that there would have been somebody just around the corner in the cave when Mari's right there, right? So probably not, because Mari would have heard that overnight, somebody else toiling around in the cave. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Ben was not talking to Javi's friend in the cave. And in fact,
he was just talking
when we did a poll, people said no, there's no way. So we're going to cross that off. I like that. Okay. Next, golden hue of delusion. The camp can't be that great. That was that golden hue. We were saying that maybe you were going to finally see it revealed that the camp wasn't like that. Well, I think at this point we can cross this off. That wasn't the case.
No.
What we saw was real all season long. Yeah. I actually talked to Ashley Lyle about that a little bit. And she said that she was going to congratulate the cinematographer
for achieving that,
because that was, they were kind of giving those vibes. Like season 2 is all the blues and the coldness, and this was again the warmth. So they're trying to differentiate the look of the different seasons. Okay. Next one was adult Lottie is apologizing to herself in the mirror. That is in the episode, of course, where she dies. What do you think? At the time, we weren't quite sure, because the way they edited it, they showed that it went from the adult Lottie to the young Lottie, and that's why we had said that. But later on, it is revealed that she gives $50,000 to Lisa. So do you think she was probably practicing her apology to Lisa?
Yeah, I think she's apologizing to Lisa.
Do we think that maybe Lisa is actually her daughter?
I mean,
we don't know. That would be a great storyline to see.
There's still a lot of mystery surrounding Lottie's father.
Yeah.
The weird stuff with like him saying, "Oh, those people, like covered this up."
Yeah.
Like I know people have talked about like maybe he really secretly wanted the plane to go down, didn't want it to get captured, caught or found, whatever. I'm sorry.
Right.
So I don't know. I think we should just,
Yeah, that's definitely something to explore in the future. I think they could definitely get some more into that, especially if they're going to be returning in post-rescue. There's definitely going to be some interaction there that we're going to see.
Yeah.
And I do think that would be really cool if somehow Travis knocks Lottie up and that is their child. That would be amazing, Lisa.
One more thing, too, just about the Travis knocking people up. So what's weird about, they were having the doom coming. They were clearly... Frolicking, and Travis was the stag, right?
Yes, but I think he only slept with Jackie that night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then still, though, don't you think after all this time, maybe he would be stooping anybody else?
Well, you would think as a teenage boy that he would, except for the fact that his brother died and they ate him. So that might taint his hormones,
I guess. But maybe the other thing would be, too, maybe they're so tired from not eating.
Uh-huh.
But no, I'm sorry, though. You think about a teenage guy. Think about yourself as a teenager.
Does he remember sleeping with Jackie? Like, he does remember, because he just said to Shauna, remember? Some of his thoughts.
So I'm saying I would definitely think it's plausible
possibility
that there could end up being another baby born out
because somebody was wondering, why are there no other wilderness babies?
There's got to be some more wilderness babies.
Okay, but then why would Lottie be so focused on Shauna's baby if she had her own wilderness baby? See?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Anyway, I still think that we can cross off adult Lottie as apologizing to herself.
Okay.
No, I think she was apologizing to Lisa no matter who she was. Okay. Then we have Vanna's fire starter, or she is covering for other Ty who may have set the cabin fire. We've talked about this quite a bit.
Now, well, I think it's weird now that the Van character in the adulthood is gone. We're not going to find out from the adult storyline that is the case. So they'll have to reveal it in the teenage timeline.
Well, I don't know. I almost think in a way this is one of the mysteries that doesn't really need to be solved, whereas like the Javi's friend does. But I could see it definitely being an interesting plot point, just like the Misty reveal of the flight recorder is definitely an interesting plot point. So it's something they can definitely still pull out of the bag if they need to.
What if it was Crystal who came back?
Well, right, and that's the thing. Yeah, that we kind of said that too. Maybe it was Crystal if she was still alive. Okay, next one. Yellowjacket symbol is a warning sign to move on.
I think I'll take that. I kind of like that one.
Yeah, I mean, we can't prove it though. That's
what
I'm saying.
Prove it,
can't
but I'm
cross
just saying,
it off
I think
yet.
What we've been seeing all the hobo
code
and how it keeps showing up, right? Even in that last episode before she went in the pit again, they showed it again, didn't they?
Well, no, they showed the sign again when the Froggers were getting closer to the Yellowjackets village, right? When Kodiak was taking them closer, there was the sign again. So don't go anywhere near that. It's nothing good is gonna come of that. Now I'm wondering, who left those symbols, right? Was it originally a trapper or whatever, or was it originally Kodiak? I mean, we don't know. The Kodiak situation is still somewhat of a mystery as to who this guy is or how much he contributed to what's going on. Now, the symbols that I think you're referring to were the eyes.
Oh, the eyes in the tree, yeah.
So now some people are saying that, birch trees just automatically have those eye shapes in them, and they do, but I feel like those were way more pronounced. They're
definitely
carved.
Focused on it with the camera for a reason.
Yeah, they're focusing on the eyes, watching what's going on. So I think they still have some meaning. Yeah. All right, so we'll leave that for now. Okay, adult Yellowjackets are now just zombies living on borrowed time. They all must die.
Well, you can't prove that.
We were saying that maybe Misty is the ultimate survivor. We were saying that all throughout this particular season, but now as things are turning towards the end, we have some new reveals. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Okay, Coach Ben is the bridge to rescue or a descent into total madness.
I think, in a way, he was kind of the bridge.
Yeah.
Because without them having that feast, the frog people would not have come over there. They wouldn't have heard all the mayhem. That probably wouldn't have
bringing the radio, bringing the sat phone, I should say.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And bringing Hannah, who then has this little secret alliance with Natalie. So yeah, I would say it actually is kind of both. I mean, he's the bridge to the rescue and also into total madness, because without that, then they wouldn't have been force feeding him and all that craziness. They wouldn't have,
right, and they kind of had to get
Lottie went absolutely nuts. She's chopping up the brain and eating the brain, and
they had to get rid of him.
Yeah,
because he was the only sensible one left.
Right,
at that point.
I agree.
So
we're gonna say yes. Yes, that is true. Akila's vision, curiously, was true. All right, moving on. All right, we have moths represent someone coming into the tribe to destroy the queen.
I mean, that's plausible.
Yeah, okay. This was in reference to the kind of visions that Shauna was having in the grocery store and then later on. Yeah, that actually makes sense, because who would you say that is in a way? For
the
her,
intruders.
It's Hannah.
Well, Hannah, yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Because Hannah's the one that kind of foils Shauna's plans in the last episode. So can we just say that's kind of what it is?
Yeah,
we can't really say for sure,
not
but
for
it's
sure,
certainly...
but I would say it's promising.
Yeah, I like that. We're gonna just kind of star it. I like that.
Put a little star next to it. We can keep that for next season.
Okay, is there more to Melissa's explanation to Shauna? Someone is stalking her, Shauna.
Oh.
This was in reference to what Shauna said to her in person during that one episode. It was kind of like the whole episode was them talking. But then if you remember in episode 10, when she actually finally sees the letter, it is exactly what Melissa had said. Right. So I guess what we can say here is there more to Melissa's explanation to Shauna? Not really, but it was somebody stalking Shauna. So a lot of that stuff was explained, except for, again, the Queen of Hearts in the bathroom, which could be explained. Or was that still Walter?
Obviously the Walter storyline is going to be important in the next season.
Oh, I agree. I think we have a thing coming up for that. Okay, Lottie is somehow still connected to nature spirit, whatever that is, who she is. In other words, even if she has the mental illness that is sort of treated by her medicine, this is this big argument. Is it spiritual? Wilderness? What is it? What do you think? Does she have a connection?
Oh, I think she does have a connection.
Yeah.
I definitely agree she has a connection. I just don't think that all of what she's engaging in is...
Or that it should have been paid as much credence as it was by the rest of the Yellowjackets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they had nothing else to go on. They had no other really hope. So they glommed onto all that stuff to their detriment. So, okay, I'd say... But is it a nature spirit?
I'd say it's hard to say. Leave it up there.
Yet to be determined. Okay. Natalie and Misty make deal about the transponder, hiding Misty's culpability to save Natalie and the team episodes. Okay. Yeah. Yes. We know this to be true. We know this to be true. This happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
That did happen.
All right. Cool. Someone, a maiden, will be sacrificed in the finale episode for dancing too hard. That's from the Rites of Spring. That was mentioned in the synopsis.
Well,
yes, this happened. Now, the question is, who is it? Because to me, you could say, well, yeah, it's Mari. Mari is the maiden. In fact, I think we put that in a slide for our coverage of episode 10. But, determining what happens with this Aquila situation, it could be Aquila as well. Because
you wouldn't count Van for that, too?
No, because in the Rites of Spring, it's someone who is dancing too hard, someone who falls out of the group. It's Mari. Okay. Mari falls out of the group. She is the one who is chosen to leave the group, to run.
Right.
It's Mari.
Okay. I'll buy that.
That is also true. Okay. All adult Yellowjackets must perish at the hand of another former team member.
I think that could be also.
Not true.
Well, why not?
Because Lottie died
from Callie. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
Up until that point, though, it was true. Okay. Then we have Teen Yellowjackets probably not officially rescued for a couple more months. Will the rescue team be looking for the Yellowjackets or for the Froggers?
Well, this is what I think you and I had a quick little conversation about this.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that this is probably true. We were looking at
this is the
timeline that we are following.
Yeah, this is definitely up for contention, which is the actual timeline of when the crash was. Okay,
right.
Because there is this promo video that is sort of like in world for season 2, where it showed Kurt Loder kind of AI cleaned up to appear as though he did on MTV News back in the 90s. And so there's all these references to sort of the fall of 1996. And it actually shows footage with the date of October something, 1996, that the Yellowjackets are playing a game. So it would make sense then that the crash was in October or November of 1996. But to me, it just doesn't make sense when you factor in Shauna's pregnancy and also the fact that there's a letter from December of 95 or something like that, I'm not sure, that's shown in the pilot where it says, congratulations on your entrance into Brown, Shauna. And it says, we welcome you, class of 2000. And then there are all these other again, in-world things that show that the Yellowjackets would have graduated in the class of 1996. So why would you be going to nationals for your soccer game in the fall of 1996 after you've already graduated? At that point, you'd already be going to college. Right. It doesn't make any sense. You'd already be in college. So they had to have graduated in 1996. And it also makes sense because in the adult timeline, the 25th anniversary is in 2021, and that is 25 years after 1996. So the plane crash had to have been towards the end of that school year, which means that right now, where we are...
How many months in are we?
Well, we're probably in late October or early November with this snowstorm, which means there will still be a couple moments left before they're rescued. And I do think it's interesting. We were talking about how I kind of had wanted to see them really be two separate tribes, like kind of warring with each other. We were also talking about how there's still quite a few Yellowjackets left that have not died. We've got the Brit, Robin, Jen, Aquila, So these people, we don't know what their fate is at this point. So are there more that are going to die out in the wilderness?
Or is that going to happen when they get back?
Right.
Because remember, there's still that thing that was said at the one point.
Yes.
What the things we did when we got back. So, I think that it's possible that some of those Yellowjackets were eliminated after returning.
Yeah, that was the thing. Jen and others will make it out of the wilderness only to be hunted by core Yellowjackets, adult survivors, in the years following the rescue. Terrible things we did.
And what did Natalie do that threw her into jail?
What did Natalie do that threw her into jail?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean, so
I still...
Lots of unanswered questions.
Yeah, lots of unanswered questions going into this season 4. It is curious. We don't know how much more of a transmission that Natalie had up there on that mountain
Yeah, but the only thing is this. I think somebody mentioned that maybe you can't trace sat phones like you could a cell phone. It might just be like a transmission.
Don't know the technology of that at that time.
Yeah, we'd have to do some more research.
Okay, next one. Aquila is left in the cave by Lottie, victim of noxious fumes found by Javi's friend. Will we see adult Aquila in season 4?
Well, you got to leave that one up. We don't know yet.
Gosh.
We just don't know.
As we said at the end of the last season, we said it'd be pretty stupid for them to get rid of Aquila because she really has been a fan favorite this particular season. And I do think that if they were going to have any more adult survivors, that would be the one you'd want to see.
Yeah.
It just makes perfect sense. So what did they do to her? We don't know. Again,
and who knows? Maybe Aquila is going to show up and be the therapist or the person that Melissa's been speaking to. Barbara. It could be Barbara. I don't know. I
don't know. I mean,
is that we'll write that at the end of the sheet.
I did.
Is Barbara?
Yeah,
is
Barbara's
Aquila Barbara?
Here. Barbara's on here.
Who is Barbara?
I really am intrigued by this. And again, we did talk to Ashley Lyle at the finale screening, and she was very cagey on it. She did say that no, Aquila does not appear in any of those scenes after the cave. And then she'd also mentioned that she had just had lunch with Nia Sondaya. Now, that could be one of two things. They could just be friends having lunch, or it could definitely be a conversation about season 4, one way or another. Right. So, crossing fingers. Okay, you ready for some more? Here we go. We have Will Natalie's push to the mountain. Yellowjackets attempts to usurp Lottie and Shauna, ultimately dethrone Shauna as the Antler Queen. Taissa needs to be the Antler Queen.
Yeah, I think that Taissa is going to become the Antler Queen at some point, too.
Yeah.
I feel like that core
I
group...
feel like we need to see that, which would mean we need to see Misty as the Antler Queen, too, probably at some point. Because we've seen Lottie as the quasi-Antler Queen.
Well, maybe it would make more sense that maybe Misty would be the Antler Queen next.
Coming out next.
Yeah.
Right, because of this transponder thing. But
right.
I don't know. That would have to reveal the fact that she had hit it, I think. I don't know. I'm sure they could write around that. But yeah, it would be fun to see. Or maybe Misty is the ultimate Antler Queen in the end as the survivor.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah? Okay. Anyway, we definitely need to see Taissa as the Antler Queen as well, I think, personally.
Yeah, I would like to see
I need to see that. All right, next up. Adult Taissa is going to go after Shauna as retribution for Van's death.
I think that's a good one.
I think we're seeing that. I mean, I think we were already seeing that.
Think about it. We were just saying, what is Taissa's character going to do?
Yeah.
She's not going to go back with Simone.
Well, she may want to, but
but Simone won't take her after all that
I really
stuff.
do think that there needs to be some sort of closure on the Man with No Eyes and also Sammy, because in season 1 there were definitely some drawings that showed that he had sort of a sensibility, and we do know that the man with no eyes appeared to Taissa's grandmother.
Right.
So I want to see, and I guess Sammy is not Taissa's biological
I did
son.
see something funny the other day. Maybe you could throw that on here too. Did you see somebody had posted the picture of Vera Wang at the Met Gala? No. And they said the man with no eyes.
Oh, really? Oh, shoot.
Kind of looked like him.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look at that. I didn't see that.
We could show that image maybe. Okay. We can find it on here, the Vera Wang.
Yeah, that's going to be inserted afterwards. Okay. Now we have also Misty and Walter are finished.
I have a feeling they're done. He can't be trusted. He was blasting that, Slayer.
Isn't that funny? We were at a party recently, and somebody was wearing Slayer shoes.
That's right. Slayer's back.
Slayer's back. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of our things on here, too. I'll just jump to it. It says, Walter is connected to either Kodiak or Hannah. Walter is avenging a death caused by the Yellowjackets. He is not what he seems.
We don't know that yet, but I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
And I think that they wouldn't have had even that moment, that scene of him rolling down the window, if they weren't pushing for something like that. And I would love to see that. And I would love to see if there was some sort of connection with him or Adam, that whole thing. I think Amanda G had talked about that as well. It'd be really interesting to tie in those season 1 things if you're going to close out the whole show, right?
Yep.
All right, then we have, this was kind of following what we had just said about Taissa. We have Shauna is going to go after Melissa and Melissa's family and or this Barbara to cover tracks.
Certainly possible.
Right.
Certainly possible.
It's like this, Final Destination. They all got it. They're not going to be friends. They're not going to be hanging out as friends anymore.
Well, and I think I mentioned to you, but you thought I was crazy. But I did see somebody wrote a theory that maybe Melissa has kidnapped.
Well, Melissa has kidnapped Callie and Jeff.
Callie and Jeff.
Yeah, that's
here. One too. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know that would have been her next move after she left. Now, remember, she killed Van. And they dumped Van's body in the woods, Dateline style, because obviously if they were to reveal all this stuff, it would be crazy. So that's another thing. We didn't write that down, but will that come out, that Van's body is discovered in the woods?
Yeah, that's possible. That could happen.
I think that would be really cool to see like the real world. I don't mean the TV show from the 90s. I mean like the real world kind of have to jump into the adult cast timeline. Like, what's going on, everybody? What happened? Like that, they need to answer for all that stuff, don't you think? Wouldn't you like to see that? I kind of would.
I'd like to see that.
Okay, and then finally, because we already talked about the other one, we will finally get to see a third timeline or a continuing timeline post-rescue.
I think that's kind of been confirmed, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that has been kind of confirmed through interviews. You guys out there, you can put in the comments maybe what those interviews are. But I think that's going to happen. Like, it has to happen. And I do think it'd be more interesting if there were more survivors that then have to be dealt with because maybe they're loose-lipped, right? Telling stories.
Loose lips sink ships. That's
All right. Well, that is the end of our theory list up through season 3. Well, actually, started the beginning of season 3, although it does, I guess, have a couple things from season 2 in there as well. What else is there to say? I
mean, the only thing that I can say is that isn't it possible we might get a little bit more intel about future actors coming on the show?
I mean, the way it kind of happens is you hear that it's been picked up, and then probably they'll go right into writing, because the last time, if you remember, the delay was the strike, the actors' strike, all the strikes that were going on, and so that paused it. And as soon as the writer's strike was resolved, they went right into writing, even though the actors' strike wasn't quite resolved.
Yeah.
And then of course we still have the other thing that I think it was crossed off on here, but certainly we talked about it, which was Cabin Daddy, and there is that footage out there somewhere of Jason Ritter, who is portraying Cabin Daddy, supposedly, with that jacket. So all these things are
that's the thing I was saying. What I would like us to do, and maybe we could do a little short on this too, is Cabin Daddy jacket.
Yeah, following the jacket.
Following the jacket.
Yeah. And why? and why. I want to get to those things. We do have a couple of ideas for these kind of special one-off episodes in the Yellowjackets, and we will get to it. It might take us a little bit of time again because we got some other things going on. So I guess that kind of takes us right up to the end of what we're going to say. We don't know when the next episode is going to be.
We'll try our best.
We are going to try our best to get one out sooner rather than later. And I know we are working on the Knots Landing season 2 behind the scenes, and you will see that hopefully in early June, I think. We do want to do another Extra Jackets update, and we do want to do a show about some of this costume stuff because it fascinates me, and I think it fascinates you as well. And we saw a lot of that kind of come to fruition in the finale as it matched up with what happened in the pilot. So that's all coming up next at some point. And if you want to find out when, of course, you can always subscribe.
Yeah, did you like it yet?
Yes.
Just like it. I mean, it's interesting when I'm listening to a lot of people on YouTube.
Sure.
And they're just saying, again,
it
really
makes
helps.
Such a difference.
It helps so much.
And
to
the comments.
Get the word out there.
The comments. I mean, the comments make such... it's so important, especially like right as soon as the episode airs. If you comment on it, then it automatically adds it into the algorithm for other people to find.
But the like and the subscribes are just great.
Yeah, and that goes for the Spotify as well, which we're so thankful. Actually, over on Spotify, we've seen a huge increase with our Yellowjackets coverage for season 3. And I have to say, there have been a lot of people that have been asking for the podcast to be on other venues like Apple Podcasts and stuff. We'll probably do that this summer. We haven't gotten around to it. There's so much stuff going on. So thank you. And again, we will let you know as soon as we know when the next episode will be. And until then, we will see you then. Back on the sack. For you Knots Landing people, of course, you know what that means. For the Yellowjackets people, that is the cul-de-sac from Knots
And
Landing.
then we'll just say stay hungry for more
Stay
content.
hungry too, yes!
Stay hungry for more content.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging with us. And thank you for subscribing, liking, and commenting on this episode. Have a fantastic rest of the month. And
See you later.
See you later.